Secret things wise people keep to themselves. There is a kind of person you've probably met. They don't say much. But when they speak, the room goes quiet. They don't announce their plans. But somehow, things always seem to work out for them. They don't argue, don't defend themselves, don't explain. And yet, they carry a presence that commands respect without demanding it. You've probably wondered, what do they know that I don't? The answer is not intelligence. It is not talent. It is not even experience. It is restraint. Wise people throughout history, the Stoics, the great emperors, the quiet philosophers, have known something that most people spend their entire lives learning too late. What you do not say is often more powerful than what you do. What you do not reveal protects you in ways you cannot yet imagine. What you choose to keep inside becomes a kind of private strength, a reservoir of power that the world cannot touch because it cannot see. Today, we are going to go deep into the secrets wise people keep. Not gossip. Not tricks. But profound, life-changing disciplines of silence, discretion, and inner wisdom. These are the things that separate people who simply survive from people who genuinely thrive. Stay with me. The first secret: they never reveal their next move. The first thing wise people keep to themselves is their plans. Most people announce their goals the moment they feel excited about them. They tell their friends. They post about it. They share the dream before they have done a single thing to make it real. And there is a reason this feels good. When you tell someone your goal and they respond with enthusiasm, your brain registers a small hit of reward. It feels as if you have already made progress. But you haven't. You have only spoken. And in speaking too soon, you have done something quietly dangerous. You have handed your dream to the world before it was strong enough to survive contact with other people's doubts, jealousy, and indifference. The Stoics understood that most goals die not because the person lacks ability, but because the goal was exposed before it had roots. Marcus Aurelius governed one of the most complex empires in history. He did not govern loudly. He wrote privately. He planned privately. He only revealed what was necessary, when it was necessary. There is also a psychological dimension here that goes deeper than strategy. When you announce a goal, you create a social identity around it. You become the person who is going to do this thing. And when it becomes difficult, and it always becomes difficult, your pride is now attached not just to the outcome, but to the announcement itself. Wise people avoid this trap. They let their actions speak first. They let the results be the announcement. There is something quietly powerful about doing the work in silence, and letting the world discover what you have built. Keep your plans to yourself until they are so real, so done, so complete, that no one's doubt could possibly stop them. The second secret: they never discuss their personal struggles with everyone. Wise people are selective about vulnerability. There is a difference between healthy openness and unwise oversharing. And most people have never been taught where that line is. When you share your deepest struggles with the wrong people, you are not receiving support. You are handing ammunition to someone who may not deserve your trust. Not everyone who asks how you are doing actually wants to know. Not everyone who listens to your pain is holding it with care. Some people collect information. Some people use your vulnerability as a reference point for your weakness. Some people share what you told them in confidence. Wise people understand this, not because they are cold or suspicious, but because they have learned through experience that oversharing is often a form of misplaced trust. The Stoics were very clear about this. They valued what they called reserve, the discipline of not presenting your inner world to every person who crosses your path. This does not mean isolation. It does not mean suffering alone. Wise people have a small number of genuinely trusted relationships where deep honesty is welcomed and safe. But they do not confuse social interaction with intimacy. They do not treat casual acquaintances as therapists. They do not post their wounds on the internet and wait for strangers to validate their pain. They are discerning. And that discernment protects them. Ask yourself, who in your life has truly earned the right to your deepest truth? Not who is available. Not who asked. Who has demonstrated, through their actions and their character over time, that they are worthy of what you carry. Share with those people. Keep everything else close. The third secret: they never show everything they know. Wise people understand that full disclosure of your knowledge is rarely wise. This is not about deception. It is about strategy. When you constantly demonstrate everything you know, you do three things. First, you eliminate the element of surprise, one of the most useful advantages in any interaction. Second, you invite challenge and debate, much of which is unproductive. Third, you create a ceiling. People form a fixed idea of who you are and what you are capable of, and they stop looking for more. But when you hold something back, when people sense that there is more beneath the surface than you are showing, they stay curious. They stay engaged. They treat you as someone still worth figuring out. Epictetus said something that cuts to the core of this. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Wise people apply this outwardly as well. They do not give others the false comfort of thinking they have fully understood them. They remain, at some level, mysterious. Not artificially, but genuinely, because they are always growing, always learning, always deeper than their last conversation. There is also a practical dimension to this in professional life. When you are the most visibly knowledgeable person in every room, you are also the most exposed. Every claim is scrutinized. Every gap is noted. But when you speak selectively, when you contribute precisely and powerfully and then fall silent, your words carry far more weight. People who speak less but say more are always taken more seriously than people who speak constantly and say very little. The fourth secret: they never react to every provocation. This one is critical. Wise people have learned something that most people spend decades resisting. Not every provocation deserves a response. Most conflict in human life is not fundamentally about the issue on the surface. Most conflict is about ego, the need to be right, the fear of being disrespected, the hunger to dominate the other person's perception of you. And when someone provokes you, when they say something dismissive, something unfair, something cruel, your ego screams, respond. Defend. Correct. Retaliate. The wise person pauses. And then, often, does nothing. Because they have learned that the person who reacts most has the least power. The person who can receive a provocation and choose, genuinely choose, how to respond, or whether to respond at all, that person is in command of the interaction. Silence is not weakness. Strategic silence is one of the most powerful responses available. When you do not respond to someone trying to provoke you, you send a message that no argument could send: you do not have the power to move me. And that message lands harder than any comeback. The Stoics called this practice not being an echo. When someone makes noise, an echo simply repeats it. But a person of character decides what to carry forward and what to let die in the air. Let most provocations die in the air. Reserve your voice for things that truly matter. The fifth secret: they never tell people how much they have changed. This is one of the most subtle and profound secrets wise people keep. When you do genuine inner work, when you heal old wounds, shift deep patterns, build new character, there is a temptation to announce it. To say, I used to be like this, but now I have grown. And the impulse comes from a real place. Genuine transformation is exciting. You want people to see you differently. You want the people who remember your old self to recognize your new one. But wise people have learned, real change doesn't need to be announced. It gets noticed. When you tell someone you have changed, you create an expectation you now have to constantly perform against. Every bad day, every moment of weakness, every slip, and there will be slips, because you are human, will be held up against the announcement you made. And more importantly, telling people about your inner growth often substitutes for the growth itself. If you are busy narrating your transformation, you are not fully living it. The truly transformed person simply acts differently. Quietly. Consistently. Without commentary. And eventually, the people around them begin to notice, not because they were told, but because the evidence is undeniable. Let your life be the proof. Let your behavior be the testimony. Your character does not need a press release. The sixth secret: they never complain. This one will challenge some of you. Because complaining feels so natural, so justified, so human. And to be fair, there is nothing wrong with naming difficulty. There is nothing wrong with honest acknowledgement of pain or hardship or injustice. But there is a world of difference between honest naming and habitual complaining. Habitual complaining is what happens when naming becomes a lifestyle. When every conversation circles back to what is wrong, what is unfair, what has been taken from you, what others are doing to make your life harder. Wise people notice something: complaining does not change what happened. It does not make the thing better. It does not build anything. What complaining does do is rewire your brain to see the world primarily as a source of grievance. And once that rewiring happens, you will find evidence for it everywhere, because you are now looking for it. The Stoics called complaining a form of assent, an agreement with the idea that external things have the power to disturb your peace. Every time you complain, you are confirming to your own nervous system that you are a victim of your circumstances. Wise people refuse this framing. Not because life is easy, it isn't. Not because nothing bad ever happens, it does. But because they understand that how you narrate your life determines how you experience it. If you narrate your life as something that keeps happening to you, you will feel powerless. If you narrate your life as something you are actively building, even with obstacles, even with setbacks, you will feel capable. Wise people choose the second narrative. And they keep that choice private, not as a performance of positivity for others, but as a discipline of mind for themselves. The seventh secret: they never let people know exactly what bothers them. This is a secret that protects wise people in ways they rarely have to explain, because it works silently. Most people broadcast their triggers. Through their reactions, their complaints, their visible annoyance, they teach the people around them exactly which buttons to press to get a response. Wise people understand that known triggers are weapons in the wrong hands. If everyone knows that a certain type of criticism makes you defensive, that weapon will be used against you, consciously or not. If everyone knows that a certain topic makes you lose composure, that topic will find its way into every difficult conversation. By keeping your triggers private, or better yet, by doing the inner work to dissolve them, wise people move through the world with a kind of armor that others cannot penetrate because they cannot see it. This is not the same as suppression. Suppression is dangerous. It stores pressure until it explodes. What wise people do is closer to transmutation. They process what bothers them privately, thoroughly, and they emerge from that process more settled, less reactive, harder to move. Seneca wrote, "The first thing philosophy promises us is the feeling of fellowship, of belonging to mankind and being members of a community." He understood that wisdom is built in solitude but expressed in relationship. Process your pain privately. Bring only your peace into the room. The eighth secret: they never need the last word. Here is one of the most practical signs of genuine wisdom: the ability to let a conversation end without winning it. Most conflicts are not about facts. They are about status. About who gets to be right. About whose version of reality gets to stand. And the ego, particularly when wounded, will fight to the absolute death for the last word. It will argue past the point of usefulness, past the point of relationship preservation, past the point of any possible productive outcome, just to have that final moment of dominance. Wise people see this game clearly. And they choose not to play it. Not because they don't have opinions. Not because they don't know they're right sometimes. But because they understand that the need to have the last word is a form of insecurity, a hunger for external validation that they have learned to feed internally. When you are genuinely secure in your own truth, you do not need others to confirm it. You can say your piece, clearly and once, and then let the other person do whatever they choose with it. Their disagreement does not make you wrong. Their silence does not make you right. You already know what you know. The wise person speaks their truth, lets it land, and walks away whole, whether the other person agreed or not. This is one of the most liberating practices available to you. Try it once, truly let a conversation end without needing to win it, and notice how much lighter you feel. The ninth secret: they never reveal how hard they work. There is a culture today that celebrates the performance of hard work. The posts about the early morning alarm. The exhaustion worn like a badge. The constant narration of sacrifice and grind. Wise people do something different. They work extraordinarily hard, and they keep it almost entirely to themselves. Not out of false modesty, but because they understand something subtle and important. When you perform your work ethic, you are spending social currency on an image. When you simply do the work, you are building something real. The performance of hard work is often a substitute for the confidence that the work itself should produce. People who are genuinely certain of their path do not need others to know how much it costs them. The outcome, eventually, will speak. There is also this: when you constantly tell people how hard you are working, you are implicitly asking for something: recognition, permission to be tired, acknowledgement that the sacrifice is worth it. Wise people do not outsource this need to others. They settle it internally. They know why they are doing what they are doing. They have counted the cost privately, and decided it is worth paying. And then they pay it, quietly, consistently, without narration. The world rewards results. Not effort. Not sacrifice. Not the story you told about how hard it was. Do the work in silence. Let the results make the noise. The final secret: they never stop growing, but they never announce it. The last secret is perhaps the most beautiful one. Wise people are never finished. They are always in process, always reading, questioning, revising, expanding. They have not arrived. They do not believe they have arrived. The moment they believed they had arrived, they stopped being wise. But they carry this ongoing growth quietly. They do not turn their development into a public project. They do not need witnesses to their becoming. There is something almost sacred about private growth. The version of yourself that is becoming, the one that is still unfinished, still rough, still uncertain, is vulnerable. Exposing it prematurely, subjecting it to the opinions of others before it has solidified, can crush it before it has the chance to live. Wise people protect their becoming the way you protect a flame in the wind. Not by hiding it forever, but by shielding it long enough for it to grow strong enough to stand on its own. Marcus Aurelius filled 12 books of private reflections, the Meditations, with notes to himself about how to be better. He never published them. He never shared them. He wrote them for himself alone. And yet 2,000 years later those private notes are among the most widely read words in human history. The most powerful growth happens in private. The most lasting transformation happens in silence. And the most genuinely wise people are always the ones who know how much they still have to learn. The deeper pattern, why all of this connects. If you look at all of these secrets together, you begin to see a single thread running through all of them. Wise people have learned to find their reference point internally rather than externally. They don't need others to know their plans, because they know their own direction. They don't need to share every wound, because they have built the capacity to hold their own pain. They don't need to react to every provocation, because they know their own worth is not determined by how others treat them. They don't need the last word, because the last word they needed to hear came from inside themselves. This is the true definition of wisdom. Not the accumulation of knowledge, not the mastery of philosophy, but the gradual, hard-won shift from looking outward for validation to finding it within. And the extraordinary thing is, when you stop needing external validation, you become far more magnetic to others. When you stop broadcasting, people lean in to hear you. When you stop performing, people start trusting you. The quiet person becomes the one everyone wants to hear from. The still person becomes the one everyone wants to stand near. The person who needs nothing from the room becomes the most powerful presence in it. That is the paradox of wisdom. You gain the most by needing the least. If something in this video spoke to you, and I believe it did, or you would not have stayed this long, I want you to sit with one question. Which of these secrets is most needed in your life right now? Not all of them. 1. Maybe you need to stop announcing your plans before they have roots. Maybe you need to stop performing your hard work for an audience that isn't watching the way you think they are. Maybe you need to stop reacting to every provocation and start choosing your responses from a place of power. Pick one. Work it for a week. Not publicly. Not with a post about how you're working on it. Privately. consistently, in silence, and watch what begins to shift. Because this is how wisdom actually works. Not in sudden revelations, not in dramatic moments, but in the quiet accumulation of small, daily choices to be more deliberate, more discerning, more fully in command of your own inner world. You are already capable of this. You would not have stayed this long if you weren't. Now go do the work. Before you go, if this reached something in you, if even one of these ideas is sitting with you and asking to be taken seriously, I have one simple ask. Subscribe to this channel. Because this is the work we do here together. Every week, we go into the wisdom that has survived thousands of years because it is genuinely true, Stoic philosophy, timeless principles, the kind of thinking that actually changes how you move through the world. There is so much more ahead. And I want you here for it. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. You are worth the wisdom you are seeking.